This video is different from my other videos because it's not just one guy walking, it's sort of one guy talking. You're looking at my Moffat family tree with my father's father back to my fifth great-grandfather born here in Craigbeck in 1737, James Moffat. His father John, his father William or Francis, James, born in 1628 in Holehouse, Francis in the same area, James, who died in Gardenholme in 1595, and then a few other Moffats, Robert Moffat, the clan chief Robert III, and then two Roberts before him. All born, lived, and died somewhere in the Moffatdale area. The way that I found some of these places, like Craigbeck, Holehouse or Holehouse, and Gardenholme, was using this National Library of Scotland map that indexed old hand-drawn maps from the 1800s. And when they index them, you can search for things like Craigbeck, Holehouse, Gardenholme. Some of the places, like Craigbeck today, are seen on a modern-day Google map, for instance, and still exists. The farmhouse, the buildings of the farm, even the cottage. But back in those times where they named their residences, some of those aren't on modern-day maps. Craigbeck is, and we're flying here from Moffat into Craigbeck, but other places like Holehouse and Gardenholme were only found by going through that old map. Cottages at the top, farmhouses on the bottom right, and the farm buildings in the middle. 3 different owners, but all part of Craigbeck. Here's the house where my fifth great-grandfather was born. I think it's in the section on the left. I think the newer part of the house is this here on the right-hand side. But we had an opportunity to drive up and see this area.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a picture of the back of the house. I think that's what it was like in 1737. And these additional residences, I'm not sure if crofters lived here. I'm not sure if other Moffat family members lived here. Today this is part of the kennels or the farm side of the property.
Said I could pull in here and take all pictures, but there's dogs and horses and stuff, so I'll just do it from here.
Does this go all the way around?
Yeah, this goes up to the cottage, and then there's a turnaround at the cottage. So this, right?
Yeah.
This is the land.
So part of this story is that we know James Moffat was first seen in Rhode Island in 1776. He marries Tabitha Mumford. They have at least one child, possibly two. And this is at the time where the British are retreating after being beaten back by the American patriots, who are taking over the United States, or taking over the colonies and having it become the United States. And James and Tabitha end up in New York, where the last British loyalists are assembling. Tabitha dies. She is buried in Trinity Church on Wall Street in New York. In fact, not far from Alexander Hamilton's grave. James remarries a woman who is the widow of his friend John Ross. So James remarries Mary Ross, formerly Roach, And with their blended family, John Moffat, the son of James and Tabitha, and John Ross, the son of Mary and John Ross, this blended family ends up emigrating to Nova Scotia. As far as we know, according to a few family historians, we don't have exact proof of it, but as far as we know, the connection has been made between my fifth great-grandfather, James Moffat, who was the head of the family in Nova Scotia, to this James Moffat born on this property that we're looking at in Craigbeck, outside of Moffat, in 1737. Assuming that connection is true, as I have assumed, as you saw in the family history tree at the beginning of the video, then this is the land and the property where my sixth great-grandparents and even some before lived, where my fifth great-grandfather James was born, and where he left to head to the New World. Quite a beautiful property. We did have the opportunity to meet the owner at Craigbeck House. She's not on the video. We caught some audio recording, but she didn't want to be on video. And it was her father's family, her father-in-law's family, who purchased the property from Major Francis Moffat of that ilk. It's well documented in other stories and books about how Francis was the person who did the research to reform the Moffat clan after being headless or chiefless for over 400 years. And Francis's grandfather told him many stories about being descended from the clan chief, and Francis went through the work of locating the records, establishing the descendancy, and worked with the British Parliament to have the clan restored, and he was named chief. Major Moffat repurchased the lands of Craigbeck in trying to reestablish the family on the farm. I believe he kept sheep and maybe even cattle. And then in the 70s, as he was aging, he sold the farm, I think, if I recall the story correctly, in total to the Cullens family. And then there was I think a brother who ended up having to parcel it out. And here we're back looking at the rear of Craigbeck House again, and to the right part of Craigbeck Farm. I did briefly speak with a woman who was running the farm. It is now a kennel and a stable, an equestrian stable. And here we're looking back at the gate up towards Craigbeck House. There were other places where my ancestors lived. We are looking up the Moffat Water Valley. Moffat Water meaning Moffat River. And Craigbeck is in that valley. That's to the east and north of the town of Moffat. But shortly we'll drive back. Actually, I think from, in this part of the video, we head up towards the beef tub. So, oh no, I'm mistaken. I'm sorry. We're going to head back into Moffat first, go through downtown Moffat, the small town that it is, and then we head up the Annan River Valley, or the Annan Water Valley, and we find the place called Holehouse in Gardenholme. We're just doing some camera work here to figure this out.
Tower again on a perfectly clear day. Actually, I'm kind of glad it poured rain on me
That was pretty
just to have it.
Scottish.
Yeah, right?
You're here. And from the rain.
Beautiful every day.
I think this is beautiful. I think that is beautiful weather.
Well, maybe I mean good hiking and camera weather.
I see. Okay, that's fair. Do you want to move on? I'm assuming you
Yep.
did.
Stop and go.
Some of the houses on the roadway here that we just passed appeared to be built probably in the 1800s. Easily could have been crofters' homes, families that worked on the farms. And then there's this section where obviously to the right there's newer homes that were built. And so a little bit of a community in Moffat still, not just in Old Town or on High Street, but this little development here. In between what would have been called Holme End and the village proper of Moffat.
Well, it sounds like she enjoyed sharing too. She didn't have to. East wide.
As we head over the river, now we're coming into Moffat from the southeast. The Black Bull Inn is ahead of us. This was the mail stop between London and Edinburgh. That building was constructed in 1568, still standing. Robbie Burns would sit and entertain, write poetry. Coming up on the right, we'll see Moffat Toffee right there. And our Airbnb was just up that little alleyway. You had to approach it from behind, where the alleyway was wide enough for a car. But up by High Street, the alleyway narrowed, and this was called a wind because everybody wanted a little bit of frontage on High Street, but they needed more property in the back for land and agriculture. So we're back on the NLS map, going up Old Edinburgh Road, up the Annenwater Valley, and we have a little marker right here where we pull off. We didn't drive down into the property. That was quite a muddy road, but here's Holehouse and Gardenholme. So the Moffat family lived up the Annan Valley, or Annandale, earlier than they lived up in Moffatdale, or the Moffat Water Valley. So we're coming out of Moffat, heading essentially northwest, and heading out to Gardenholme and Holehouse, or Holehouse.
But I guess any Europeans. It's a roundabout.
This is a roundabout?
Yeah, so the
Okay. Yeah.
it's almost like it's like a symbolic, like you
Yeah.
do it as if, even though it's not got the thing for it, it's like
And now we're heading up that Annenwater Valley.
yeah, the people in the restaurant yesterday.
Some beautiful cottages up this side. Don't know much about them, haven't done a lot of research of the ages of the homes here. But you can see some of those brick fronts or stone fronts that are likely 1700s, 1800s. Some with additions, some with renovations.
Up and down the Moffat, 3 times. This is the added so it's all
You're right. Making sure.
So I pull over here so we can get the Insta360 out of the car. We don't have all the windshield in the way. And then we can have a nice clear shot driving up the Annenwater Valley. And here we go, getting back on the road. Getting back out into the farmland. So again, as I understand it, this side of the valley is the, or this valley on this side of Moffat is the older part of the valley. We'll pass some old residences, named residences or areas. One of them's a farm called Reddings that was on that old NLS map. Another one further up to the right that we didn't stop at called Granton, or Grantoon, meaning Grand Town. There's also Newton or Newtown or Newtown. So this Annandale part of the countryside here outside of Moffat is the older, and by older I'm saying, as I understand it, towards the 1500s, 1400s, 1300s, with people that lived, and some of the Moffat clan that lived up there. This is the Reddings farm, kind of straddles both sides of Old Edinburgh Road. We used the GPS coordinates that we got from the NLS map, plugged that into Google Maps, and then ended up plugging it into the GPS of our car. So here's the turnoff for Gardenholme and Holehouse. We didn't go down the road. from Old Edinburgh Road. As I mentioned, it was it is a private lane, and it was very muddy. But some other areas, Mickleholme side, there's Granton further up. And then I'm moving the map up to Ericstane, also a very old residence farm area. And this is where we pull up to after leaving Gardenholme Holehouse on the road. What I didn't realize when we were driving was it does appear you're permitted to go past Ericstane and get to the car park that you use to hike up the beef tub. So the Devil's Beef Tub has been written up as an area where Clan Moffat, who were part of the Border Reivers, or thieves really, after they stole cattle, maybe from the Johnson clan or the Douglas clan, they would drive the cattle up into the beef tub to hide them from their owners, and then they could slaughter them and use them for what they needed them for. So we're going to drive up to Ericstane, but that road does not continue. It does continue to a car park, as I mentioned, but it doesn't continue up Old Edinburgh Road. It kind of gets cut off, and the modern day highway is a little bit further to our west, which in the video is, as soon as we get turned around here, watching this other car go by. In the video, the modern highway is a little bit further left, past the Holehouse and Gardenholme on the west of the Edinburgh Road. So we get up to Ericstane, and beautiful drive up there, a few more minutes, and then we just turn around. We did on a separate trip, drive up the proper highway. Can't remember if it was the A70, but it's just to the west of Moffat, the proper new highway heading back up to Edinburgh. And there is a spot there where you can pull over at the top of the beef tub and look down into it. There are some historical markers and just a beautiful view. There is a hike, a walk that you can do along that way. But here along the Old Edinburgh Road, probably many generations of my Moffat family traveled up and down the earlier version of this road. So it's nice to get up and down the countryside in both valleys bordering Moffat.
think you can